Cup Series race. Here are your hosts, Kevin Batstone, NASCAR Sky, and Jeff Davis.
Welcome back to another episode of Mash the Gas. I'm NASCAR Sky, and Mr. Kevin Batstone will be joining me shortly. Jeff is off this week, and then we're going to talk about COTA and Reddick's iconic three-peat, and then we're going to go ahead and flip over to Phoenix, where we're going to see where all the teams are going to shake up for the season. And you know, Kevin, I'm sure this is a really hard one, but who mashed the gas the hardest in COTA?
Well, I mean, an unbelievable fashion, Sky. Like I said last week, Tyler Reddick is just an unmatched company right now. Goes out and leads 58 laps, holds off the best road course racer in our series right now, SVG, and gets his third consecutive win to start the season. Never been done before. We've obviously seen drivers win 3 in a row at other times. Christopher Bell did it last year, but not the first 3 races of the season. I mean, off to an unbelievable points advantage already. Hats off to 2311 and Tyler Reddick.
And yeah, and we can't forget Bubba. I mean, Bubba's second in points right now. I know it's still really, really early with the whole point situation, but I'm really impressed with 2311. I mean, that entire organization, like I mentioned before, probably a couple of weeks ago on the podcast, that Reddick, you know, he said that the lawsuit didn't bother him, but I don't know. I mean, it feels like he's just been let out of a cage right now.
He's definitely in a different zip code. I mean, the way, Ryan Blaney, I thought, had something there. We saw in stage 1, he was able to drive around the 45. He led 11 laps, and I thought the 12 was definitely pacing the field there for a bit. But after stage 1, Reddick found something and was just able to hold off Blaney, able to hold off SVG, Christopher Bell. Michael McDowell was up there for a little bit. Just unbelievable drive. 2 super speedways and now a road course in his pocket. Can he go to the 1 miler in Phoenix and get 4 in a row?
It's definitely possible, because I do think Toyotas are just very, very strong, especially in spring Phoenix. So I definitely feel like, he has a really solid shot at going and winning 4 in a row. I would say that it's impossible, but I almost thought it was impossible to win 3 in a row. So at this point, I feel like the entire season is his. We just got to see where it goes. I mean, he has 186 points right now, and Bubba Wallace in second has 116. I mean, that's quite the jump. So I don't know. He's whatever that 45 camp has got going on. I mean, heck, even the 23 camp, I mean, it is working so well. I'm just really impressed, and I really like it just because it's kind of like a suck it to NASCAR, like you tried to do all this stuff last year. You might have thrown us off our game. You might not have, whatever. But they're not here to play this season.
And they've certainly showed it. I mean, you heard Michael Jordan in the post-race. Now 3 weeks in a row, we've got to see Michael Jordan there celebrating with the team. He says he's going to be in Phoenix. I don't think MJ should miss a race this year. I think he's going to have to be at every single race watching this team compete, because I know it's super early in the season, Sky, but you just mentioned it, 70-point advantage over second place. And if we go back a little bit deeper into the field, he's got 100 points over eighth. And we've talked about this format with the top 16 going into the chase. We know that there's going to be a reset with a 100-point spread. But, I mean, these kind of numbers and this kind of dominance really has given us a look at how much winning is going to matter on that points differential. If a guy gets hot in the chase, wins 3-4 races, out of the 10, massive, massive point swings here. So is Tyler Reddick the early championship favorite? I mean, I think we would almost have to say yes.
I mean, I agree. Not just based on, he won 3 in a row. Like that has never happened. I mean, like you said, in the first 3 races of the season, I just don't know. This season is his, I'm feeling. Since you mentioned the points, I was kind of writing down and looking at it. Obviously, again, it is still really early. Big point swings can happen. But I was, Bowman's got 23 points right now. Like Reddick has 186 and Bowman has 23. I mean, people like that, I was looking at him, Connor Zilisch, which I'm not too worried about him. I'm sure, he's got to get a couple races under his belt. He's shown really good flashes. He's also shown flashes of being a rookie. So I'm sure that he won't be too bad. I mean, Cindric's only got 39 points. It's not necessarily like you're in trouble right now, but you definitely want to monitor that, because you don't want to get too low where you're in such a hole, such a deficit that it's almost impossible to go out. And that's why I'm kind of looking at Bowman. I mean, 23 points. Obviously, like I said, anything can happen, but that's a tough deficit to be in right now.
Huge deficit to be in. And of course, we saw what happened to Alex Bowman in the 48 yesterday. Not feeling good, had to get out of the race car. Matt Snyder was on standby, who was actually doing pit spotting for Jamie Little for the broadcast, had to throw on his suit, go out there and try and salvage the day. But like you mentioned, a very deep hole. We've talked about Alex Bowman and kind of the uncertainty of his future with Hendrick Motorsports. Not a great day in COTA. We'll have to see. I mean, we're too early on to really say where the field is going to stack up when we get to Phoenix and then Vegas, and we start getting to our mile and a halves and Darlington, and a lot of these races in the springtime where we see where the fields are really stacking up. The Toyota is going to continue to dominate, or are we going to see a Ford or Chevy get up there and mix it up? You mentioned Connor Zilisch as well. Didn't qualify great. He qualified P25, drove up to the front, spun out on his own, had some issues throughout the race, drove back up there again, and then got wiped out. Felt really bad for Connor Zilisch.
Yeah, me too. Like I said, it's definitely, he's one I'm not too worried about having, only 37 points. I feel like he's going to get a win this season. I'm not sure what track. It might be a road course, it might not. But I definitely feel like he's just so much more talented than a lot of the recent rookies that we've seen. There's something about him. He's just like a phenom. So he's not someone I worry about too much. As long as he can just limit the rookie mistakes. And I don't know. Hopefully he doesn't follow in Carson Hocevar's footsteps, because he might be making a lot of enemies. I think he should stay kind of on the good side. Not Ross Chastain either. Maybe he's got a couple bad examples there. But yeah, I'm not too worried about him. The whole points thing, like I said, it'll switch up a lot. SVG fifth in points right now. I'm pretty impressed with that. I mean, obviously he didn't win, COTA was one that I didn't think, if one road course he wasn't going to win, I was thinking it probably would be COTA. So I don't know, but fifth, I'm pretty impressed.
SVG getting the points where he can. He knows this is his opportunity to capitalize. We saw those guys stay out in the stage, get the points. They had a good car. I felt like SVG was a top 5 car most of the day. I mean, he drove up there from 13th and then just kind of struggled to attack for the lead. We just didn't see the typical 97 that we, are used to seeing SVG drive. I mean, that said, he did say his handling was a little bit off, but, kudos to Tyler Reddick. I mean, he was lights out faster than the entire field. So much to the point where I saw some scuttlebutt last night that people were saying, oh, it's rigged. They're rigging it for Tyler Reddick. And that's always a funny statement to make when you hear cheating allegations and things of that nature. That just means somebody's dominating so much that everybody has to go out there, start hating, say he's cheating. You really think NASCAR is going to come out and cheat, right, and put Tyler Reddick in an advantage after the situation that took place in the offseason? It's unreal, Sky.
Yeah, I agree. Like, they're not going to choose Tyler Reddick. If NASCAR's rigging it for anybody, like Chase Elliott would have like a bunch of championships by now. Like every race would be in his favor. Like, yeah, I don't think they're rigging. I think he's just dominant. I mean, and he's really competitive. We've seen him. I mean, he did so well in the 8, years ago. And that equipment obviously back then wasn't what it is now. And I mean, I'm sure he didn't take last season lightly. I'm sure he was upset that he didn't get a win and that maybe he didn't do as well. I can't even say he didn't even do that well, because like he did still do really well. He just, he didn't get those wins. So I'm sure that he really sat on that and really, had everything in the off season. And I don't know, he's just on fire. I don't even know what to say besides I'm kind of flabbergasted. I expected him to be good, but this is like way better than I thought. And, looking at the points too, Spire, that's crazy. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, the Spire situation, whether we're talking about the lawsuit that's going on there, which we saw some movement on today, or their performance on the racetrack, either or, these guys are showing up. They're bringing fast race cars. I was really impressed with Michael McDowell. When I saw him not take 4 tires on that final pit stop, I thought he was out of his mind, right? I mean, we saw the degradation of tires in COTA really, really start to affect lap time. And I thought out of everybody outside of Tyler Reddick, of course, McDowell did the best at keeping his tire management under control and was still able to move that race car forward and ended up with a solid points day.
I just love hearing that. Solid points. Like, it just makes me feel, it just reminds me of back in the day. Like, I swear drivers were always like, oh, it was a solid points day. Yeah, I'm happy for him. But Spire right now in the points, they have all 3 in the top 10 of points right now, which again, it's early, but you look at someone like Hendrick, they only got Elliott in the points right now and he's 3rd. So it's pretty impressive. They got some strong competitors over there. I like to see how it goes. McDowell, he's a veteran. He's been so good. It didn't surprise me any that he did well at the road course. And hopefully, I'd like to see him get a win soon.
I think he will. These guys, this organization has gotten a lot better over the years, just chipping away at it. They have good talent. They have good, hungry race car drivers. We didn't really see the Hurricane Hocevar that we're, typically calling out week to week. We didn't see too many boneheaded moves. He did end up turned on the front straightaway there towards the end of stage 3 there that didn't bring out a caution, fortunately. That's one thing I do enjoy about the road course racing. We don't see a ton of full course cautions unless a tire falls off, like what happened to Ross Chastain. Unfortunate deal there, because he was another guy that I thought could have at least contended in the top 3. He had a fast race car there, but when that tire dropped off, that just killed his day.
Yeah, and it definitely, some vacations are definitely going to happen as well too. I don't know. Ross is another guy who's definitely surprised me this year. I don't know, he just really elevated. I mean, like I said, you have Connor Zilisch and you have SVG. You kind of have to elevate, and because you want to keep your job, you want to be good. So I'm happy for him a lot. I mean, he's doing pretty well. I mean, we've talked about him. There's drivers like you think like Denny Hamlin. Like I can't even think like the few races this season. I feel like we really haven't even mentioned Denny Hamlin a whole lot. So someone like Ross, like I don't know, it's really impressive.
Yeah, it is. You mentioned Denny Hamlin sitting 23rd in points right now. So those guys have some work to do for sure. But those JGR Toyotas, they always know how to turn it on. I mean, we saw Christopher Bell, he had some speed to him. We're going to a racetrack where Christopher Bell runs really well. We know what Denny Hamlin did there in November. Heartbreak, of course, led the whole race, lost the championship to Larson in the end. So, I think Phoenix, as I've been saying all season, is going to be the measuring stick of where we're at. And if 2311 can go out into Phoenix and Tyler Reddick doesn't even have to go out and win this race this weekend. Just show up with a top five, maybe lead some laps. These guys are definitely making a statement early that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with all season long. We heard Bubba Wallace walk up to him after and, say, hey, how many of these things are you going to win? Kind of like a Talladega Nights quote, like, well, it'd be cool if I could win. He's like, but if you win, how can I win?
Yeah, that like I said, I could give props all day about 2311 and everything they're doing. Hopefully, you can get their third car, Herbst, up in the mix as well with the other guys. But they're doing really good. And I wanted to mention Ty Gibbs. He got a top five. I think he finished fourth at COTA, and I was a little worried about him. He was one of the guys I looked at last week in the points who kind of had a little bit of a deficit. But like I said, things can happen so quickly with the points and it's swaying. I mean, one win is going to help you out a lot, especially if you're someone like Bowman or Cindric or Ty Gibbs. So it was really good to see him, get up there, get some points, and kind of dig himself a little bit out of that deficit.
Ty Gibbs is great on the road courses. That's kind of a sleeper pick almost. When I think about my road course ringers, I had AJ, I had SVG, of course, but Gibbs is one of those guys I usually sleep on. He's very consistent at keeping lap time, always finds a way to chip away at it and get good finishes. I mean, we saw him battling with SVG in Mexico City last year. So Ty knows how to get around these road courses. Still looking for a win in the Cup Series. I do think it will come this season. I do think Hocevar is going to find his way to victory lane. I do think we're going to see some first-time winners this year, but who knows? Maybe Tyler Reddick just goes out there and keeps dominating. I mean, it's just we're in untreaded waters here. 3 races to start the season has never been done in our sports history. Sure, we've seen guys go on runs and win 3, 4, 5 in the middle of the season, but to start the season that way, it kind of sets the bar pretty high, I think, Sky, because now it's like the pressure's on to perform. But in Tyler Reddick's favor, with that 70-point advantage, he can afford to have a bad day, a mechanical failure, get caught up in a wreck, and still be in a great points position.
Yeah, and I don't think we can just stress enough too how cool. Like you can argue, okay, Atlanta and Daytona are very similar because they're super speedways. But I mean, to win on those and then also win a road course, like a road course is not at all the same as Atlanta or Daytona. So just to have that versatility as well. I mean, I don't know. It's just great. I honestly, like I said, I feel like he's probably going to win. I don't even know, like 7, 8 races this season. It wouldn't surprise me. Maybe he pulls like a Harvick in 2020 or something. Although, he ended up not winning the championship. So maybe I won't go that far.
Yeah, it's hard to predict what's going to happen. I know Jeff's not with us tonight, but that was his pick last week to win COTA, and so he definitely nailed that one. I of course took SVG for obvious reasons. Obviously, the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series race, he went out and got a win. Tough day for Connor over there too, getting wiped out by Corey Day, who hasn't been making any friends in the O'Reilly Series. And I don't know if you caught any of the Truck Series race from St. Pete with Lane Riggs going down there and getting a win. That was pretty cool to see the Truck Series go down to St. Pete. I'm kind of digging this IndyCar NASCAR duo that they're doing, and we've seen them do this with the Truck Series before. But this weekend, Sky, they're doing the doubleheader with the IndyCar Series on Saturday and then Cup Sunday. I'm not hating it.
I'm not either. I feel like that's a good way to introduce a lot of, the NASCAR fans to IndyCar and a lot of the IndyCar fans to NASCAR. I think that's a really good way because I feel like, I take people to a race for the first time and they're just like blown away. They're like, holy crap, I didn't realize it could be this much fun or that there was, so much happening. I mean, most people don't even know NASCAR has teams, I'm always like, oh, this is my favorite team. And they're like, a team? I'm like, yeah, there's teams in NASCAR. So it's good to kind of introduce it all the way around. And IndyCar I feel like NASCAR has a certain kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It has a certain thing about it. Like some people think a certain way about NASCAR. And I think IndyCar is more mainstream. Like a lot more people who maybe don't watch racing fully kind of gravitate more towards IndyCar. So that's a good way to get them to kind of also experience NASCAR. So I think it's just a really sick idea all around. But you mentioned Alex Bowman getting sick, but AJ Allmendinger too. I mean, it's interesting, Alex. I don't know what their sicknesses was. I think AJ's was because his cooling suit wasn't working. I know it was very, very hot in Austin. I'm not too sure. I didn't catch what Alex Bowman's was, but good on AJ, for sticking it out. And I hope he feels better. I didn't catch. I think they said he was all right, but I hope they both feel better.
Yeah, heat exhaustion's no joke. When we look at this was our first hot race of the year, and of course we have the cool suits failing immediately. I mean, it's how many times have we talked about this last year? These cool suits are failing. The helmet fan fails. It just seems like how can we not get this equipment right? And I understand why Denny Hamlin says I'm not going to even use one because I'm not going to roll the dice and be that hot. You get that exhausted, you get out of that race car and that adrenaline wears off, and AJ collapsed. Just out of fluids, dehydration, heat exhaustion is no joke. And I don't know exactly what happened to Bowman, but I'm assuming it was tied to that. I didn't hear that he was ill prior to getting into the race car. I think something developed. He couldn't do it. And, kudos to him for saying, I can't compete anymore. Driver safety is most important first. Had to pull it in. We talked about his horrible points day, but his safety is most important. And, we had Daytona, which was a cooler race than usual. Atlanta was very cold. And so now these drivers are getting into those hot conditions. Kevin Harvick talked about it in the broadcast. That first hot race of the year conditions you for the rest of the year. I expect we're going to see pretty mild to very hot conditions in Phoenix this weekend. They've been turning record highs. In Vegas is known to get hot as well. So, this is going to be good preparation for these guys for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think if I was a racer too, I think I'd follow with Denny there. I just don't think it's worth it whenever they go out like that. I think, you just kind of jeopardize a lot. Um, yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for Phoenix. Like, I know we were kind of talking about it, but I'm ready to get some normal racing. I like my super speed. I don't say I like my super speedway. The super speedways are what they are. I enjoy COTA. A lot of people were like 50-50 on it, but I really like COTA. I think a lot of fans just can't get with the whole road course racing, which I don't really get. I feel like, as long as all four wheels on the ground turning, I don't really care. Whatever way you got to do it, the way you got to do it. But a lot of fans, they just seem so unhappy with the road course racing. So I like the amount that we have. I think it's cool that they're experimenting with a few, San Diego, Chicago, all that. I don't know. I know I kind of got one up on a tangent there, but I like it. So many people discredit COTA because they just don't like road courses. And that I just think is so sad.
I've always loved road course racing. Growing up a Jeff Gordon fan, watching what he did, winning 6 in a row, which SVG almost tied yesterday. Watkins Glen and Sonoma were our two courses, and then we started adding in a couple more. The Circuit of the Americas, I think, definitely does have a good place in NASCAR. It's an F1 style track, of course, but it's cool to put our stock cars out there and showcase, number one, how difficult it is to drive these cars. Because everyone always complains, non-NASCAR people, they just go fast, turn left. It's all oval racing. It's easy peasy. It isn't. And SVG is a perfect example of that. We've seen his oval program improve, and I think it's continuing to improve. And I do think we'll see SVG win an oval. But there's something about road course racing that is exciting. It's very different than what we do. It challenges the drivers in different ways. And I think just watching over these past few years, having SVG in the field has caused everyone to step up their game and race a little bit harder. Again, I mean, Ryan Blaney was driving the wheels off that thing. Sure, he finished P8, definitely had some tire degradation there later in the race, but it's a different style of driving, and that's why we see the road course ringers like Dinger and McDowell and SVG always in the conversation. But now we got to talk Reddick. When we get to our next road course, Reddick's going to have to be in the conversation because he knows how to get out there, get it done. Daniel Suarez was another one. I didn't really have him on my radar because we haven't seen what he's going to do yet with Spire, and that was an impressive run for Suarez.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, if you look at the points, I mean, he's leading Spire right now, I think. Yeah, he's seventh. So he's got something working over there. I think a lot of it too has to do with just like environment, and I don't know how supported he was over at Trackhouse. I know Trackhouse kind of started with him, but a lot of things changed. Ownership changed. People were coming in and out. I don't know. And that's why I say a lot with Kyle Busch too. I just feel like the environment is so, so important. And if you don't have enough people around your driver, backing your driver and supporting your driver, I just don't think some drivers just aren't capable of like doing that on their own. I think that they need that little backing. So I hope for Suarez. I mean, I like the guy a lot, and he clearly has talent. It's just he's bounced around so many times. I feel like he just has to find that perfect Goldilocks situation to be in. But you only get so many chances in the Cup Series, so I hope he can figure it out for sure.
Well, I think he's racing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He kind of got the boot a little bit. People have kind of slept on him as a, Cup Series driver, and he's driving hard. He wants to prove that he is a Cup Series driver, not just a driver, but a winner. He obviously racked up a couple wins at Sonoma. He won at Atlanta. He is a Cup Series winner, and he knows what it takes to get it done. I'm excited to see where his career goes with Spire. You mentioned Kyle Busch. I thought it was kind of funny seeing his teammate there in the 33-year-old Jesse Love, who's going to be doing a part-time schedule with Austin Hill in that 33 RCR car. They got into it a little bit, and classic Kyle Busch came out. He's like, "Hey man, I don't care if you're my teammate or not. I'm going to push you around." Kyle gets aggressive on these road courses, and especially when you're going to knock him around. I mean, Kyle, I think, is a very fair race car driver, especially in his later years now. He gives guys room. He races with respect. But if you're going to rub the fenders off of him, he's going to give it to you. And that's exactly what he did to Jesse Love.
I can't say I don't want to say I fully disagree because I don't want to make it sound like I'm all for aggressive racing all the time. But when you look at the situation, Kyle is fighting for points in a championship, and Jesse Love is not necessarily like he's just trying to get experience. And I'm not saying that he should just like let every single person go by, but like I feel like your teammate, I was seeing it. They were definitely going at it there for a little bit. But on the flip, I guess that is really good practice. I mean, we have Kyle Busch going against you enough times. I feel like, you'll eventually learn how to start racing around people a little bit differently. So I guess it is a good and bad situation. We'll just see. I'm interested to see how Austin Hill does. Austin Hill is, very Austin Hill. So I like to see, I'm interested to see how he does in the Cup Series.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity for those guys to come up, race at the Cup level, get around some good competition. We see these guys drop down and run races, in the O'Reilly series as well, which is always a challenge for them. I mean, Austin Hill had a decent day on Saturday. He ended up P2, right? Led 4 laps. I feel like when I think about Austin Hill, I always think super speedways because he's very dominant force on the super speedways, knows how to get around there. But ran P2 to SVG. Like I said, Corey Day wiped out Connor Zilisch. Zilisch kind of had a rough weekend. He really showed a lot of speed in both series and was able to make passes clean. Worked his way up there multiple times and just got wrong place, wrong time. We see these restarts at COTA going up in that 134-foot elevation change into turn 1, and somebody overcooks it. Someone gets into each other. I mean, it's a madhouse getting through turn 1 at COTA.
I'm just ready for Phoenix. Like super speedway, I feel like adds so many years or subtracts so many years from my life every time I watch it, especially as like a Penske fan because they very much stress me out. But I'm ready to get to Phoenix. I shouldn't even say that because I do think the Toyotas are literally just going to dominate. If it's not Reddick again, which I feel like, might end up picking him because it might be a pretty solid pick at this point. It'll be someone like, I feel like Seabell. I mean, he was knocking the door there in COTA. He's been a little quiet this season. Carson wrecked him in Atlanta, I think. So I think that, I think he's probably ready for some normal racing, and he won here last year. He went on, he was in his little stretch of winning races. So I feel like Seabell is also a really good pick. Any Toyota, though, I feel like is probably just going to end up dominating.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good early pick. Obviously, like you mentioned, the Toyotas do run, they seem to run well in the spring race here in Phoenix. I mean, we go back a year ago, you mentioned Christopher Bell. Denny Hamlin ran second to him. Denny, we saw what he did in Phoenix in November. I do think Denny's definitely going to go into my fantasy lineup. But we got to talk about your Penske boys. The Penske Fords are always fast in Phoenix. They just are. Ryan Blaney, got the win. Kyle Larson won the championship. You go back to New Hampshire, Ryan Blaney gets the win. New Hampshire and Phoenix, to me, are very sister tracks, that flat 1 mile feel. So I do think Ryan Blaney and Joey Logano are definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with this weekend.
And, I know he's not a super Penske, but I'm looking too. And Barry finished 4th here in the spring last year. And then he finished 7th in the fall. So he's someone else to look out for too. I mean, last year he snuck with Vegas, I think he won. Nobody I could say had him on the radar to win that race. So he's another one that could probably sneak it in too. I am looking, and you know what? I was giving the Toyotas a lot of cred, and I do think they deserve a lot of cred because they are very, very good at Phoenix, especially I feel like in the spring. But yeah, looking at the Fords, but then you look at it, Larson right there. You got that one Chevy in the top 5.
Larson knows how to get it done. Hendrick is still kind of waiting for that opportunity to pounce. Chase still has that heartbreak from the Daytona 500. He was in position to do it. Chase knows how to get it done. He's won in Phoenix. He won his championship there, obviously in the old gen car. We talked about Chase being kind of a road course guy, but that was still in the old gen. We still haven't seen Chase find victory lane in this Gen 7 car. Not saying it can't happen. Still had a pretty productive day, finishing P7. But the Hendrick Chevys always have to be in the conversation, I feel like, when we talk Phoenix. It really does kind of come down to that Gibbs, Penske, Hendrick lineup. But I think we're at a point where we have to include 2311 and even RFK. We haven't seen what RFK is capable of yet. Obviously, we know Ryan Preece went out and won the Clash earlier this year, short track style. Brad Keselowski battling through a broken leg, amazingly, getting around COTA with a broken leg. I'm really curious to see if these RFK Fords are for real, and Chris Buescher, and what can these guys do on the intermediates?
Yeah, I'm really interested in that too because I feel like they got a strong situation going on right now. Even Brad, even with the broken leg, I mean, he ended up doing COTA yesterday, so congrats to him on that. But I just feel like, I mean, looking too, Brad finished second in the fall last year, right behind Blaney, and Priest finished ninth. So, and then in the spring, Buescher finished fifth. So I don't know, they're really good too, and I'd like to see Buescher get back on top because I mean, what was it, 2023? I mean, I feel like he was just really strong that year. He won like 3 races or whatever. I don't know. I like to see him get back on top. I do feel like the RFK Fords are going to be very strong, especially, I don't know, Priest seems like such an underdog, but even with the win that he had earlier in the season, or before the season, I should say, I don't know. Every person we're going back and forth on, I'm like, I want to change my pick. I'm like, who? I feel like a lot of people could win.
And that's exactly how we can measure where we're at in NASCAR. When really is no other than Tyler Reddick. We have to call a spade a spade. Tyler Reddick is obviously the hottest guy in NASCAR right now. But looking at the field, anybody can go out and win Phoenix. I feel like for the organizations that we went through, and we're going to see what this horsepower package looks like now. We're going to have a little bit extra horsepower on corner exit. Hopefully Goodyear gets the tire situation right, and I think we're finally going to see this next gen with the correct horsepower. It's exactly what the drivers have been asking for. Denny Hamlin was very adamant about it for years. Talked about it on Actions Detrimental all last year. We've got the horsepower now, Sky. These guys, they asked for it, they've got it, and now it's time to go out and execute it. And I think this is going to be probably some of the best racing we've seen in Phoenix in a long time.
Oh my gosh, I hate that it's a week away. Like, this is stressing me out. I'm so excited. I mean, like, you bring up the horsepower. I just think, I don't know. I'm just so ready to get to some regular type of racing. Just give me some non crazy banked left turns. That's all I need, for real. I don't know. It's such a mixed bag going into Phoenix. I feel like, I do feel like whatever couple teams, I'm just interested to see where the teams fare out. It's like, I don't even know, like how you were mentioning, like RFK. I don't know. I want to see how Bubba Wallace does now. Because Bubba Wallace I would say he's a pretty decent super speedway racer. I mean, at the very least, he can finish races, or, very close to finishing the races. A lot of other drivers, like Larson, for example, I mean, he's all right at it, but he always ends up wrecking himself out. So I'm interested to see just Wallace in general with Reddick and having that. I mean, because like you brought up earlier in the episode, like having that shadow almost on you, like I'm sure Papa doesn't want that. He probably already gets a lot of it anyway. I really want him to just go out, and I would say I would like to see Wallace win Phoenix. I feel like that'd be a pretty good pick too.
Yeah, one thing we can say about Bubba is when you look at his average finishing position over the last 4 to 5 seasons, it's consistently improved year over year. He went out, won Indianapolis last year. He's got some wins under his belt. He runs consistent. He qualifies well, shows up with good speed. But it does kind of make a statement when your teammates are dominating. We saw it in the Hendrick organization with Bowman kind of being the odd man out. We're seeing Larson, Elliott, these guys going out and being competitive. William Byron putting the pressure on that 48. I really do feel like he's feeling a little snake bit, dead last in the points. He's got a lot of work to do. And I know that 48 team can do it. I mean, he's got a great team, great crew chief. Obviously, Hendrick Motorsports, the best of the best, and these guys expect to win. But you're going up against some very, very tough competition. So, this is the measuring stick, as I've said all year. And one thing that kind of bums me out is we're on national Fox for Daytona, for Atlanta, for COTA, and now we get to what I consider kind of our first real race. I know that's confrontational to say, but then it goes to FS1. So the viewership kind of falls off because we're not getting that national coverage now. We go to this FS1 movement, which a lot of folks can't get. It's not on that over-the-air broadcast, national stream. So I'm kind of curious to see what that's going to do for the audience retention. We know Phoenix is probably going to be a sellout, always is, great crowd down there. But when we go to FS1, we kind of see the season fall off. It's like an IndyCar when they do the Indy 500. They pull in this massive audience and then they fall off. So I'm hoping, that we can maintain some of this viewership.
I know that is a really good point you bring up. It is unfortunate because this is the type of racing I feel like a lot of maybe actual racing fans would like. I don't want to say the Daytona 500 is like gimmicky or anything, but it's like, anybody can win. It's usually a wreck fest. And I understand for non-racing fans, like that's entertaining, that's exciting. Like we mentioned that. I mean, we all are blue in the face talking about that. It is just unfortunate. I don't think it's the best idea to drop it off at like Phoenix. Like I said, I agree. I just feel like you need to keep kind of those viewers up and access to it. I think that's the best way to put it is we have to be able to make NASCAR more accessible. That's the only way we're going to grow. And they've been doing all right on social media. I mean, a lot of them, like, that's why I really like Carson Osavar. I feel like he does really well with gaining an audience of people that maybe don't usually watch NASCAR or never really did before they found him. So I don't know. NASCAR's got to get better at that. I do feel like, though, I haven't been too mad at them this season. They've been doing all right. I don't want to jinx it yet because we still got a lot of racing to go for the season, but I've been liking how the NASCAR season's going so far.
I would agree with that 100%. I think this is so far has been one of our best seasons, from officiating to, the broadcast, to just everything feels right. The points, the chase format, there's a lot of optimism in our sport, a lot of new eyes on it, which is great. I'm just hoping that it does keep up with this broadcast schedule. This is where it kind of gets wonky when we go to FS1. And when you look down the schedule, what's the next one that's nationally televised? Talladega. So it kind of shows you, and I understand they have to go with where the excitement is and where the audience wants to be. Everybody loves watching the super speedways, but these casual race fans that you mentioned, Phoenix and Vegas coming up here, this West Coast swing, are some of the best races of the year, in my opinion. I love these racetracks. This is, what we used to look at as the championship caliber racing in Phoenix, because if you run there well in the spring, you come back and win the championship. We know that Phoenix got knocked back a couple weeks into October, and we're going to end in Homestead. But the fact remains, we get to these meat and potatoes of the sport, and then the viewership starts falling off. I'm optimistic we can turn that around.
Yeah, I agree for sure. I don't know. I definitely like to see it. NASCAR is just, I wish more people just give it a chance. Like, it is just so good. It's so entertaining. When people are always like, I don't know how you can sit and watch cars turn left. I'm like, it's because you don't know what you're watching. Like, there's so much happening, even if they're just turning left. There's always the strategies. And when you get later in the season, then it becomes the points and the bubble. And I don't know. I just love NASCAR, and I wish more people would just give it a shot. I wish, hopefully NASCAR, like I said, they're starting to get their ducks in a row here. So hopefully, this season, next season, maybe they'll start figuring some things out. I don't understand, though, why you would televise like COTA necessarily over like a Phoenix or something. Maybe because it's an F1 track, maybe because it's a road course. I don't know. I definitely feel like you could have divvied it up more for sure.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. They're trying to go after that fan. They want the chaos on the super speedways, and then hey, we also turn right at COTA, because that's what we've always heard. All you guys do is turn left. Well, here we are turning right. Well, that's still quote unquote boring. Motorsports is motorsports, and I think if you're not a motorsports fan, it's hard to capture that audience. The casual stick and ball sport fan, who I have a lot of buddies that are and have tried NASCAR, they just can't get into it. And every excuse you throw at it, right? Oh, all we do is turn left. Well, we're turning right this weekend. Yeah, it's still boring. So there's just that group of people that are motorsports, quote unquote, wannabe fans that are never going to be satisfied, never going to change that. But Phoenix puts on a show every time. Love this racetrack. We reconfigured it a couple years ago, moved the start finish line. We see him go through the dogleg on the restarts. It's going to be a battle. I'm going to come out and make my pick for Phoenix, Sky. I've thought about it a lot. I've changed it 3-4 times. I have to go with Ryan Blaney. His speed, his consistency, he's so good on the flat 1 miles. He won New Hampshire. He won Phoenix in November. Ryan Blaney's going to do it.
Ryan Blaney's a really, really good pick. And I decided to be a little funny before I got on the podcast. And I actually put on my NASCAR Sky Instagram story, and I asked people who they thought was going to win Phoenix. And then whoever was the most voted person, that was who I would pick. Unfortunately, 5 of them tied. So you took Blaney. Maybe this is controversial. whatever. I'm going to go with it anyway. I'm going to go with Tyler Reddick in the 45. He goes for 4 in a row.
Ooh.
You can say it's probably not going to happen, but guess what? We didn't think 3 in a row was going to happen.
I like it. I like the pick. Jeff did it last week. He's not here this week, but we know anytime Jeff's not here, he's going to pick Kyle Larson. So Jeff's pick, I'm going to pick it for him. He's going to go with the 5 of Larson. Hendrick's going to find their way to victory lane. I'm sticking with Blaney. You're going Reddick 4 in a row. I like it.
Yeah, look at us. We all different manufacturers. So one of us might be right.
Well, yes, one of us might be right. Or who knows? Maybe we see a spoiler in there. Maybe Ty Gibbs goes out there and gets it done.
I was going to say, Carson Hocevar, he's going to get his first win at Phoenix.
Oof. That'd be a statement. Phoenix
Connor
is not.
Zilisch.
Yeah, Connor Zilisch. I mean, this is not an easy racetrack to win at. This takes a whole, it's a shorter race, of course, but it takes the whole race team. It takes good pit stops, consistency, good restarts, don't make mistakes, and that's who's going to win this race.
And it takes not getting in other people's mistakes or anything like that. That's what I mean. You never know. What if everybody gets wrecked out? There you go. Carson wins.
Carson wins. Well, that's it, folks. We're on to the desert. We're down in Phoenix. Don't think we're going to have any rain threats down there. Weather's probably going to be very warm. Always nice down in Phoenix. Looking forward to it. This one's been on my calendar for a bit, kind of see where we're at for the 2026 season. Can Tyler Reddick make it 4 in a row? Sky thinks so. I'm going with the Ford of Ryan Blaney. I think he's going to get it done. And we'll be back next Monday night to break all the action from Phoenix. Jeff Davis will be back with us. Be sure to follow us on social media across the board at Mash the Gas, NASCAR Sky across the board. And until then, y'all,
Mash the gas.
I feel the engine screaming back. I feel the sweat.